All right, the floor is yours, Coach.
All right. Hope everybody's doing all right tonight. My name is Gabe Fertitta, and I am senior offensive analyst here at Florida State. I spent last year at the University of Louisville working for Coach Scott Satterfield, who was the head coach, and Jack Bicknell, who was the O-line coach. And this will be going into my 18th year coaching. Spent most of those coaching high school football. I was a head high school coach in Louisiana for some time. And but I want to skip some of the formalities of all of that kind of stuff and get rolling right into it. I knew I would forget if I didn't put this up there at the very beginning. We are open for guys to come visit us during the spring here at Florida State. These specific ones are dates for high school coaches to come, where we will have coaches socials and clinic. It's not necessarily a clinic, more so it's come watch practice and then hang out and talk ball and that kind of thing. So we have these 3 dates here. But if you are interested in coming and you can't make it to one of those dates, you can send me a message on Twitter or contact Ryan Bartow, who's our high school relations guy. I know his number's kind of fuzzy down there, but you can get in touch with me and we'll figure out a way to get you up here. And all of this stuff that I'm going to show you is stuff that's on our system here. And I've got 10 times that much, on the system that we could go through if you wanted to look at anything or talk about, specifically talking about the outside zone play. Let's see. So I'm going to go through a lot of the game film. And I had some PowerPoint slides. I don't know why those, let's see here. Hold on one second. I may, let's see. Can I take over sharing my screen real quick and then go back to what we have right here? Is that doable?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go through a couple of just quick slides here to talk about outside zone. So is that showing there? Why the outside zone? Everybody's good there?
Yeah, we're
okay,
good.
Awesome. So I don't want to get too much into the weeds on the philosophy of this thing, but I do want to kind of talk real briefly about some of this just to give us a frame of reference before I jump right into the game film. So I am by trade a gap scheme and inside zone guy. Power, counter, duo, inside zone. Those are the things that, that before I got to the University of Louisville, that I felt the most familiar with and really felt like I could hang my hat on. Having been at the University of Louisville and sort of immersing myself in the outside zone culture that is there from Coach Sat, I have become a pretty significant believer in the outside zone. I still think gap scheme is good, and I think it has its merits. But why the outside zone? Why have I become a believer in that? I think number one is it creates space. Like as you study and watch NFL tape, college tape, the gap scheme, the inside zone stuff, a lot of times you have to be dead on perfect in order to get just the smallest little sliver of space to pop the back through and create an explosive play. Especially when you start watching the NFL tape, when they run gap scheme, power, counter, things like that, the space for that back to fit in there and pop it and make it into an explosive run is extremely small. But when you watch the explosive runs that are outside zone runs, you see these big, giant running lanes for the running back. Of course, not all the time, but You never see them like that in the inside zone or the gap scheme game. And so I think that the outside zone is your best chance to create large gap running spaces for the running back. And really what we say is if one lineman can just win one gap. So if a center can reach a shade and everybody else can just cover people up, then you have a great shot at an explosive play. Another thing is I think it forces really difficult fits from the safeties and secondary players because they don't always quite know whether to fit it downhill and then it could bounce outside of them. Or a lot of times what happens is they fit it wide and it ends up puncturing, just past where they are. Whereas the gap scheme, the inside zone stuff, they tend to fill that downhill and pretty tightly. Another thing that I think is great from this is that it makes the D lineman run sideline to sideline. You may have a 2-yard run on an outside zone play, and that 2-yard run could pay dividends later in the game because those defensive linemen are running from side to side. I don't think that's a whole lot different from the gap scheme stuff where you're talking about body blows. You're getting that bloody 2-yard run, 3-yard run, and those body blows by the time the third and fourth quarter, those end up paying off as well. In this case, it's not necessarily the bludgeoning that causes the D line to wear down, but it's the running laterally from sideline to sideline. Also, just to go back, the difficulty in fitting the play, when you start adding the split flow outside zone, which I'm not going to get into too much, just outright scheme, formationing and that kind of thing. I'm going to focus a little bit more on just the combinations and the blocks involved. But when you start adding split flow to the outside zone, it really makes it difficult for the defense to fit properly. I think outside zone handles movement better than just about any other scheme. It's not magic fairy dust. You can't just sprinkle it on top of movement and magically you're going to pick it up. You do have to practice it and work at it. But I think that your best chance of picking up movement in the run game comes from when you're running the outside zone play. And then the other thing is it's really, really that part whole teaching and same as. So like you can teach a guard tackle combination on the front side of this play. And as long as you just look at that 2-man picture, where the end is, where the linebacker is, you can take that picture and apply it the same fundamentals and techniques to any 2-man combination that looks like that one, So, and I think that's same with the inside zone as well. Another little thing I think that's important to just sort of have a reference for when we talk about this is the most fundamental block on the play, and the most important one is one that we call a base reach, and that would be like, say, a tackle on a 5 technique on the play side. So our base reach landmark, if we have no help, if the guard is not coming with the tackle, is his eyes to the armpit and his landmark is going to the play side number. His backside hand is trying to get to the rib cage. We call that the catch hand, and you'll see kind of why we call it that when I go through the clips. And we're trying to get the play side hand to the play side pec. Now that catch hand is the most important one, that backside hand. Base reach landmark, if you have help. So if the tackle is blocking the 5, but the guard is with him, then we'll widen that landmark just a little bit. Still eyes to the armpit, but we're also going to tell them now the landmark is the armpit. Backside hand still is rib cage, maybe could slip into the sternum area, play side hand to the play side pec or shoulder. So you can see it's just a little bit wider. And the reason for that is we want to leave a little bit of room for the uncovered lineman to have something to get to if there's meat hanging there backside. One thing that I like to say is we need to hear the contact of the base reach block. The object of this is not to circle around and reach the defensive end. We want to hear the contact of that base block. And we can't have what Coach Bick, our O-line coach at Louisville, used to call fake reaches. Those are the ones where you're circling around the guy and there's not actually any contact. It is a drive block on an angle. If you hit short of the landmark, just keep on running, and commit your eyes to the landmark. And our running back's track is the inside leg of the tight end. And what we tell the running back is take it outside until you can't. And we can't have a banana path. It's got to be a straight path from the running back's alignment to the inside leg of the tight end. And we're going to read the hat of the widest D lineman. And, you know, if that hat gets reached, then we keep it outside. If that hat stays outside, then our eyes go to the next inside D lineman for that secondary read. So I just want to kind of put everybody into where our, to me, this is the most important thing. If you're going to put in the inside, the outside zone, the most important thing is how are you going to teach the landmarks for that tackle on the base reach, and what is the running back's track? Because if those two things don't match up, then, you know, you're going to be constantly trying to fix it, and it's not ever going to be right. I'm not saying that our way is the only way, but our way matches those two things together. You could have a tighter running back track and a tighter landmark with the O-line. You could have a wider track with a running back and a wider track with the O-line. I'm just telling you, this is what ours is. The running back's going to read it on 3 steps, and on the 5th step, he should make his cut. I don't have a ton of drill work. Actually, I need to show you because all of my drill work is still at Louisville. But in general, it's very simplistic drill work. And for the most part, we work what I'm going to show you in the game clips in 2-man pods most of the time. And then we work those single blocks, the base reach front side and the backside cutoff, which I'll show you in the film. And then we'll work the 3-man games and calls in our half line segment. And then this is the last general stuff. And then I want to jump into some tape. General notes. Okay. Run. That is the number one thing that you've got to tell the lineman is there's no base. There's no demeanor, duck walking, any of that stuff. There are really no steps, you know, like I was brought up as a young O-line coach, you know, where we named every single step that they would take. And, you know, this was a tough pill for me to swallow, is that, you know, we weren't really going to name steps. We were going to say, take the step you need to take to get to the landmark of where that defender is. Okay. And we're going to coach effort and speed off the ball and eyes to the landmark more than we're going to coach a specific fundamental or technique, although we're still going to coach those things, but we're never going to coach those at the expense of running off the ball and getting off the football. As much as we can, we want to simplify the play into as many single or 2-man combinations as possible. And you need those 2-man combinations to play on their side of the line of scrimmage so that you don't get picked. And I'll show you what I mean by that when we get into the film as well. We try to avoid as many like 3, 4, or full man zone calls unless there's a threat of getting picked from movement. So those things will happen. We will make 3-man zone, 4-man zone, or full zone calls if we are seeing pressure, or if the linebacker is plussed over and we know that, you know, there's some kind of movement that's potentially coming. But as best we can, we try to avoid making those calls. Okay. So I'm going to stop share here. And then hopefully we'll have pinned up there the video. So are we good there with the video?
Yeah, we're all set.
All right. So just going, these are going to be base reaches. Okay. So here, this is the left tackle on a 5 technique. Okay. And so he is getting his eyes to the landmark here. And you can see the guard, center guard combination is working together. So they are not working with this tackle. He is completely on his own. Okay. So his landmark and thought process will be a little bit tighter than if the guard was with him. Okay. Now I would like for him to continue to run his feet a little more on contact here. Okay. But you can see he sets that backhand in. Okay. His eyes are to the landmark and he is running through the contact there. Okay. So that kind of gives you an idea. And I think this running back track is pretty good. So the running back track is take it outside till you can't. His angle is at the inside leg of the ghost tight end. And that's where he's going until something takes him off of that. Okay, well, what takes him off of that is the hat of the D end is outside the base block, the base reach of the tackle. So now his eyes go to his secondary read. We have that. When I say we need to win a gap and we'll have a good play, that's winning a gap. We have won this gap. And so now, because we've won that gap, we've got a space to get the ball in there when this thing cuts up. Okay. So there's a base reach from the left tackle. And I got a few of those on here. We'll go through those and then I'll talk a little more about some of the other blocks. So now the right tackle, base reach on the 5. Okay. You can see he's running off the ball and getting his hat to the landmark. This is one I could say, if you said, do you think you could hear the contact of this block? There's no doubt that you could hear the contact. He is not circling around this defensive end to try to fake reach him. So he's running off the ball, eyes to his landmark, set the catch hand in on the rib cage, and then run, and stay running. Notice that the defensive end ends up fighting back outside on him, and that's fine. Just keep running. I can't even really stress enough to you how important it is for the guys to just continue to run and press on the angle that you find that defender. Okay, so the right tackle does a pretty good job there of running his feet, and then the back makes him right. Okay, here's another base reach from the left tackle. You can see the end is wider. Okay, so if he's wider, then my step's probably going to have to be a little deeper. All right, and what I'm trying to do is set my angle with my hips to the landmark. So there he gets, and now he's got his eyes to the armpit landmark. And so he's in great position here. And now just keep running your feet. And again, from the tailback, take it outside until you can't. There's a little bit of a banana path to this. You can kind of see how he starts going towards the line of scrimmage. We'd rather him be straight to that outside path there, but there's another base reach from a tackle. And I've got way more clips of this stuff than probably is necessary, but I just want to get you guys in that frame of mind. So right tackle, okay, he's on a base reach to the 5 technique, and he's working to get his eyes to the armpit. He's got the catch hand in there, and he's going to keep running his feet, okay? This safety does a pretty good job of fitting this play here. I would tell the running back that this is probably the right read. The tackle gives him a read that says stay on that track, and the safety does a really good job of fitting this on the running back. What I'll tell you is the next time you run it, what could happen is the DN says, oh no, I'm not letting you reach me this time. He stays out here, and the safety still fits that outside gap, and you put your foot in the ground and you slice this thing. Okay. So that's what I mean by it can be difficult for those safeties to fit it, but that's a pretty good job by the safety there fitting the outside zone there. Okay. So I'm going to go just a couple more of these. This is like our carbon copy. This is App State, who's also a big, heavy outside zone team. Coach Satterfield, who was at Louisville, was the head coach there for a long time. And there are a lot of his disciples that are there. So if you're looking to study another outside zone team, they're a great one to study. And what I'll tell you about them is they do a fantastic job of running off the football. They get off the ball and run like nobody you've ever seen. I've watched these tackles knock paint off the helmets of these DNs on some of these base reach blocks. So here's the left tackle. He hits pretty short of the landmark, which is going to happen when you got a really wide defensive end. Okay. But he hits short of the landmark. And what does he do? He keeps running his feet through the contact that expands that play side hole there. And the running back is able to get through there. So really good job. That just kind of goes to show you it's a drive block on an angle. If you hit short, it's not the end of the world. Keep running your feet. What would be bad is if we said, oh, he's way wide, and I took this really deep step and turned and ran around him to reach him, and he just went inside of me, and I don't have the guard coming with me. And now he's in the running back's face, and the running back cannot stay on his track. That can't happen. So that is the base reach. Okay. So now I'm gonna bring you to some of the combo blocks. And my setup here, I got to move over to get to the combo blocks. All right, so this is a slip. This is what we call the combination of the center and guard on the front side. Okay, so these are two-man combinations. And like I was saying, as much as we can, we want to try to make the whole thing into either single blocks or two-man combinations. Okay, and so just to kind of take you through the process of this, and I think the communication from these guys up front is extremely critical. So the center is going to ID the mic or who he is working to. Okay. And I think everybody does that. I think one thing that we did really well there is not only are we going to ID who we're working to, but we're also going to do it by who we're working with. So when the center comes up here and looks at this front, okay, he is, and we're just running a lead zone play. And again, I don't want to get too much into the schematic of it. I want to talk more of the fundamentals, but this is the defender that the center is working to. He is going to work to that defender with the play side guard. So he is going to not just say 22 is the mic. All he's going to say is slip 22. When he says slip 22, the play side tackle knows, oh, dang, okay. He's slipping it, so the guard is not with me. So now if my end goes inside, I'm the tackle on the base reach, I have to turn back on that end because the guard is not going to come overtake it, okay? Now, the center is the last man in the two-man combination. So if the shade or the G were to cross-face the center, then the center would turn back. So it is a 2-for-2 combination, and the last man in that combination is the quote turn back player. I think that is a critical aspect of this, is knowing where the combination stops. And in a slip, the combination is going to stop with the center. Now, looking at this exact picture, when the linebacker gets plus this far out, it may be better for the center to call the combination with the guard tackle. Okay, which we'll get to, but that would be an over to 22. Now the tackle would know, oh, okay, the guard is with me. Okay, but let's watch this one. This is a slip. Okay, and what we're trying to do with the uncovered lineman is we are trying to pop his shoulder with our backside hand. Okay, and what I say is I want to see his shoulder go soft, not ours. And by that I mean, you see how his shoulder turns away? What we don't want is for our shoulder to be the one that turns away on the way up to this linebacker. So the steps of this guard are going to be determined by how wide this linebacker is. Here, he can really only give one step play side, one step backside, pop the shoulder before he's got to get to this linebacker because he's so far front side. You will see some teams that will near foot this. They'll step near foot, bang this, and then get to the front side landmark. The center is trying to get his eyes to the armpit. So the center is going to work to get his eyes to the armpit, and now the guard is going to work to get front side on 22 here. Now, I like this clip to show you what I mean by it is a true two-man combination. Now, in reality, they should have overed this to 22, but they said slip. So that means the tackle's on his own. So the tackle has to turn back on that defensive end. And the guard has to slip his way through that inside movement to get to the linebacker. If he goes flat, okay, if the end goes flat and the guard's trying to get to the linebacker and he can't, he's going to get picked. And that's what I mean by when I was talking about, we're trying to make two-man combinations, but we'll have to make other calls if we're afraid of getting picked. But when you watch a lot of the really good outside zone teams in college, and especially in the NFL, you're going to see more of these guys trying to slip through the movement rather than make a call to bring all three for these three. Okay. But that is a slip on the front side. And you see what happens here. Let me go back. Okay. You see what happens here with the guard. He's able to get through. He just continues to run, and he's able to push this linebacker past the running back who can then cut behind him. Okay. So whereas you sometimes may be tempted to try to make this a three-man zone, the more you get into three-man zones and making different calls, the more it's kind of like pulling the string on the sweater. Like you pull it trying to fix the sweater, but then the more you keep pulling it, the more you're going to keep having to make more calls. This way, I think you're better off trying to get the guard to slip through and then letting the running back cut off of it. Okay, here's another slip. This is the center and the right guard. Okay, you'll see the right guard, his shoulder is the one that kind of goes soft here. So that's not what we want. We want extension with the inside hand, pop the shoulder of the D lineman, and then getting on to our landmark. Now, I would not recommend torquing the linebacker the way that the guard does here. Okay, but it is a really physical finish by him. But it's a really good job by the center of getting his eyes to the landmark, get to the armpit on the slip, and then working up there to the linebacker. All right, really good job on the slip here, left guard and center. Okay, left guard's popping the shoulder, center's taking it over, getting eyes to the armpit, and now you can see we've won a gap. Okay, and then I've got a few others of these, but something that I think we did a really good job of coaching at Louisville is something we call the moment of truth. And if you get that inside hand in there and run your feet, the defender, when the defender goes for the ball carrier, that's when you can run your feet and finish with your helmet going towards the end zone. Okay. We call that the moment of truth. That moment right there where you feel the defender trying to get to the ball carrier, that's when you need to run your feet the most. And that's the moment of truth in the block to finish with your helmet going towards the other team's end zone. All right, I want to make sure we get a look at one slip on a 3 technique. Okay, but there's another one on a G. All right. Now, on these combinations, there's really 3 things that can happen, okay? The first thing that can happen is if, let's say it was a 3 technique, is the 3 stays a 3 and the uncovered man goes 1, 2, 3, and then he climbs to the linebacker. So it stays outside. Another thing that can happen is you get a back shoulder read. If you get a back shoulder read, then the uncovered lineman is taking his 3 steps towards the combo, and he's going to try to knock that meat that's hanging over onto the down lineman and declare the read for the tailback. When the down lineman feels it getting knocked, he's going to take his inside hand and try to throw that defender out so we can really declare the read for the running back. The third thing that can happen is what happens here, and that's what we call it gets captured. So the D lineman gets captured, and then the covered lineman ends up being the guy that climbs. All right, but that's another slip, again, on a G. But you can most certainly slip to a 3 technique. All right, here's a slip to the 3 technique. So this guard is he's on the base reach with help. So he's doing all those things that we talked about in the beginning. He's a little bit wider landmark, eyes on the armpit, landmark armpit, get the catch hand in there and clamp with the left hand on the shoulder. If the 3 technique moves inside, we're looking for extension from the inside hand to press it off. we're trying to take speed off of the movement so that it doesn't ear hold the center. Okay. So the guard takes a little bit of the speed off of that movement from the 3. The center does a great job of getting his eyes to the landmark, and then the guard's able to climb. So that's what a slip would look like on a 3 technique. Again, this is App State here, who runs a lot of the same formations and a lot of the same coaching as we did at Louisville. But like I said, these guys do a fantastic job getting off the football. There's a good base reach by the right tackle. That's getting off the ball right there. And then running his feet. Okay. Really good job. Here's the slip from the center guard. Okay. So there, all right, we get it captured. The guard climbs. Okay. And then we're trying to get to this front side landmark here on 13. Now watch how 13 ends up playing this. And the reason he plays it so slow is because here's the fullback or H-back who's coming across the formation in split flow. That's where you can really get these linebackers to fall back and still run your outside zone play to the front side. Okay. That's really what made the play there. All right, here's another slip to a 3 technique. And then this is the back shoulder read. I'll tell you this, the back shoulder read is the hardest one to replicate in practice and in drill work. But here the center's going 1, 2, 3. We don't have it quite captured where the center can take it over. So he's going to go knock this over onto the guard, and the guard should shoot his inside hand to try to expand this, and then the center can climb. And what that does is it defines the read for the tailback. All right. Now, I want to talk about this on the backside. Some of these clips, there's things that are going to overlap from some of the other things we're going to talk about. But on the backside here, this is a B block, which I've got some clips up for us. But what we don't want to do on the backside is knock over a 3 technique into the play side gap. Okay. Here we're good because that declares the read, but watch what happens here because we push it over onto the guard. What we really want to do there is pull down the line of scrimmage and try to overtake that and then let the guard climb. Okay. We're really trying to put a stake in the defense backside there so that that doesn't happen. Okay. So those are some slips. And of course, if you guys ever want to go through any of this, just get in touch with me and I can go through some more of these clips with you. But I put in way more clips than we probably need. So the next block is going to be an over, which is a combination between the guard and tackle. Okay. And again, my setup has me over here. So let me go get to that. All right, so an over is a very similar combination between the guard and tackle front side. Okay. Let's see, my video is pausing on me. Got the spinning wheel of death right here. There we go. All right, so here's an over. Okay. Now you can have overs even in 4 down. Okay. Most of the time your over is going to come in 3 down situations. Okay. Let's see. Somehow I think I went backwards here. Yeah, we're still on slips. All right, here we go. All right, so 3 down, the center comes up. We have lead outside zone. So the center and backside guard are going to work to this linebacker here. So the guard and tackle are going to work in combination for these two. So it's over to this linebacker. This block would be an A to this linebacker. Okay. And this is a good look at why I think the track of the running back and what you're teaching the lineman is so important. Okay. So this block is no different than what I just showed. This would be like the center and the guard on a 3 technique working a slip. Now it's the guard and the tackle on a 5 working an over. So the landmark's the same for the tackle. The guard's doing the same thing as the uncovered guy now. And the guard is the last man in the 2-man combination. So if the defender there working 2 runs underneath the combo, it is the guard's job to turn back on it, not the center's. Okay. The center is not at all involved. If the end were to come inside, the guard is who would turn back on him. Okay. So really, really good job by the guard working to get his eyes to the armpit. And then the defender they're overing to goes to run underneath. So all he's going to do is stop and turn back. Now, if you look at this picture, the ball is now outside of this combination because of the pistol alignment and because of the track of the back. If the back's track was too tight, then this fundamental from these 2 O-linemen would not work because the ball would not get outside of the turn back of the inside man in the double team. Okay. That's why at Louisville and here at Florida State, we've given our offset outside zone a different name than the pistol because it's going to be a little bit different in how it gets blocked by the lineman. Okay. So really, really good job by the back, keeping it outside. Okay. The tackle gets this captured. So it's an outside read for the tailback. He keeps it outside. All right. The tackle has to turn back when there's no pressure. Okay. He's going to turn back on that and now just sink that catch hand in there. And we'd like for him to win that a little bit better, but we get a really nice seam there for the running back on the over from the guard tackle. Okay, so here's another one. All right, right guard, right tackle. Now we get it captured. So the tackle's going through the armpit. Okay, notice how he's a little tighter through this, okay, than he was on the previous one because the end's tighter. But he's running off the ball. He's getting to the armpit. We get it captured. So then the tackle works up to the linebacker and the guard turns back on the defensive end. Okay. And then this is kind of tricky. Like they're working the A, which look at this. This is all the same. This uncovered guard and the center are working these 2. And if you took out these 2 pictures, these would be the same picture. They are working the same fundamental and technique in those 2-man combinations. But this guard thought that the linebacker was going to run underneath, so he went to turn back on it, which is what he should do. And then that linebacker ended up running over the top of it, which is, I think that's the only time that happened to us all year. All right, let me get you to a few 4-down overs, which to me, I think are a little bit unique in that if you call over and it's 4 down, then you have in effect put the center completely by himself on a shade or a G. So if the center comes up and we're working to this front side linebacker, okay, and he feels like the shade is one that he can reach on his own or a G is somebody that he can reach on his own, then he'll say over to 45, this linebacker. And now the guard and tackle know that those are the 2 for 2. And the center is going to be completely on his own. Now, when the center is completely on his own, he has to treat this more like a backside cutoff block than he does a base drive. So he's trying to throw his hat front side to the landmark and then run his feet through the play. So this is a 4-down over. So it's a 3-step decision for the guard. 1, 2, 3. All right. It stays outside. 1, 2, 3, climb. And then I'm up on the linebacker. Now, here's why you have to have your back and your lineman on the same thought process. Here's the first hat read for the running back. He should be out here and see this hat, and then his read goes to this hat. If he would have stayed outside, take it outside till you can't, and then pressed it, he would have fit it right through here. Instead, he cuts back, and now what we're telling the center and what the back are doing do not marry up, because we're telling the center, hey, you got to just go throw your hat front side. So the center's doing what we asked him to do. And then when the running back cuts behind that, the center's going to come back and say, hey, what in the world? Why did he go back behind me? I threw my hat front side. So you got to have those guys in sync. This is a pretty good B block backside, which I hadn't gotten to yet, but since it's on here, we'll talk about it. This is a B from the backside guard and tackle to the backside linebacker, right? The guard is trying to pop the shoulder of the 3 technique, but when their linebacker works out of the box, he's going to start turning to edge this off for the tackle. So that's a really good job there by the guard and tackle on the B, getting the backside cut off. And notice the linebacker who fits, we're running outside zone out here, and he fits all the way back here because he's keying this fullback who's split flow. Okay, so just from a scheme standpoint, anytime you can draw it up and try to get a split flow, you got a really good chance at slowing those linebackers down. Here's an over right guard, right tackle. Like to see the right tackle run a little bit more to his landmark. He's a little tentative on this defensive end coming inside, which he shouldn't be, especially when it's an over and he's got the guard coming with him. Okay, good job by the guard. You can see it's a very deliberate 3 steps and then climb to the front side number of the linebacker. Okay, so those are overs. All right, guard, tackle, front side in combination. Typically, you get those in odd fronts, okay, 3-down structures, but you could get it in a 4-down structure if the center can handle on his own reaching a shade or a G. You could also get an over whenever there's the threat of movement, okay? Now, here's an over where it's kind of already declared. So if you look at it here, this is an open end outside zone. We're going to bring the fullback back. So the center and guard are going to A to this front side linebacker, and the right guard, right tackle are over to this defender. So when that happens, when it's already declared, instead of saying over to this guy, we just say out. So these 2 guys are going out, and then we're going to A to this front side linebacker. All right, which that if you drew this up and said, we want to run outside zone to this head up nose, and the center is going to have to get front side of this linebacker, it wouldn't draw up great. But when you bring the fullback back, notice what it does to the linebacker, and then we're able to get to him front side there because of the split flow. All right, so backside, our combinations are all letters. So A, B, and C. A would be the center guard. B would be the guard tackle. C would be the tackle tight end, okay? But here's a couple. I've got some NFL clips on here too. I think the Titans do a really, really good job on the outside zone stuff. So this is going to be an over, all right? And the center is now on his own on the G. So they're going to over to their ID, whoever that number is. So there's the over guard tackle. All right. And then the center is going to throw his hat front side. And where I was saying at the beginning of this, that's where we just won a gap. He won this gap, and everybody else keeps their guys running on their landmark. And so we're probably going to have a pretty successful play there. Really good job on the B backside. Watch the angle from the backside guard. It's taken like a +2 angle to get to this linebacker, then drive him on the angle you found him. Pretty good job there by the backside guard. All right, so here's an A. All right, this is Oregon State, another really good team to study when it comes to the outside zone. The reason I like this clip is because it shows you there is the turn back. So these two guys said, we're going to A to this defender, which means this guard is the last man in the two-man combination. So if either of these two defenders play behind the guard, it's the guard's responsibility to turn back on. So that's a really good look at why we try to make these two-man combinations as much as we can, because we want to clearly define who will turn back when there is movement. All right, here's an A, center and backside guard. All right. And then front side, you can see they're on an over and the guard has to turn back. And that's all you have to do is stab that run through. Now, the back, his path should have been a little wider here to the inside leg of the tight end. If the back's path was wider, he would have been wider when this happened. And I think we probably would have not gotten the holding call. Okay, but here we get the holding call because it happens when the ball is still inside of the turn back. All right, this is a really good clip to show you what I mean by sliding through versus movement. So the center and guard are on the A to 36. The right, left guard, left tackle are on the over to 44. Okay, so that means when 7 here, the DN goes inside, the guard has to turn back on him, and he does. The center is not keying the knee of this defender. The center is just on these two. So watch how the center is able to slip through the movement and still get to his linebacker. Okay. That's where I think getting into the two-man combination game is really effective, and you don't have to get into making a million calls. Now, the play didn't work out because our left tackle fell down and our tight end gets whipped on the front side. Okay. But that's why we prefer the two-man combinations, because you can get through there. Now, you can't get through when the leverage of the linebacker you're working to starts getting wider and wider. And then if he gets wider, now the center is on high alert for the movement, and then he can make a call. For us, it would have been triple to bring a 3-man zone combination and handle the movement, and then the center will work to this spiking 4-eye. Okay, so the linebackers and their leverage are going to tell the center which calls he should make in order to make sure that nobody gets picked because of the potential threat of movement. I know I'm running low on time here, and I haven't even gotten to the B blocks. But I do want to run to show you a couple of things that I think are neat, things that are sort of, things we can talk about besides just the traditional stuff there. Okay. So these are all going to be clips of offensive linemen sliding through movement. So I think this is some of the stuff that really it will keep you from having to have a million calls for all the different movement patterns that you could get. So watch the right tackle here, or excuse me, the right guard here and center are on a slip to 7. The right tackle is on his own. He is going to turn back if this end comes inside. So he turns back, and the right guard is still able to get through to the linebacker. Okay. So he's still able to kind of snake his way through the movement and not get picked. And if this linebacker were to continue to get wider outside of the defensive end or even stacked, then you would be tempted to say, okay, there's movement. We're going to make it an overcall to him instead of the slip. Okay. Here's another one. And the NFL guys they do this a ton. So now it's bear, and they're going to leave the guard on his own on the 3 technique. They're going to A to 54, and the center is going to slip through the movement. Okay. To get to that linebacker. So this guard, because of the call that they made, because they said A to 54, this guard knew that he was the last man in this zone combination, and he has to turn back if that 3 technique comes inside. Now, what I will tell you is level 2 of all this is we make those calls. He goes so flat that he knocks into the center, and the center ends up bumping the guard off, and you end up getting what we would refer to as a slip on the run. Okay. And so that kind of comes from running the play enough and the guys getting familiar enough with each other to kind of feel when that is happening. Okay. So I put this one on here. So we do not get through the movement on this one. Okay. So we've got a slip to 5. And maybe through film study, we should have known that if 5 got stacked over the 3 technique, we might have gotten movement. Okay. But we didn't. So let's look at what happens. The tackle's on his own. 13 is going to go inside of him. He turns back. They're slipping to 5. Okay. Well, when the 3 technique goes inside, the guard gets picked by 13. So the front side linebacker is going to be unblocked. That's not ideal at all. However, when you run enough outside zone, these guys start flying out of there, and you'll see on this play, 5 over scrapes it a little bit, and the running back is able to make him miss, and it's a pretty big play. And so what I have found is defenses are a little less likely to give you these 3-man games, because the last thing they want to do is lose contain and have a guy 1 man over scrape it, and then they're going to give up a pretty big play. Okay. So to me, this is the worst case scenario of what can happen if you are trying to do only 2-man combinations and 1 guy gets picked going through. You could have potentially had a tackle for no gain. Okay. But you're at least handling the down lineman first. All right. Now, ideally, we'd had an over to 5 call at the guard and tackle working 13 to 5, and the center throwing his hat front side, and the center taking over this movement right here. That's ideally what would have happened. But you got to learn that from film study. And if you at least handle these down linemen first, you got a chance to get this play started and then potentially have a big play off of it. Okay, here's some more sliding through versus movement. Okay. And again, I put these on here on purpose. Like here, we don't get through. Okay. The guard's trying to work the slip to here. The tackle is a little bit too wide. He's trying to turn back. The guard gets picked. And there's your front side linebacker who's unblocked. He overscrapes it. That's fine. We can get back to the line of scrimmage and go play another down. But if you start getting into making a bunch of 3-man full zone calls, you're likely to get these D linemen penetrating, and then you can't even get back to the line of scrimmage. All right, here's the backside guard slipping through movement that comes from the front side. So this is a slip center guard to this linebacker, okay? The center's the last man in the combination. He has to turn back, and the backside guard is able to slide through to go get to the linebacker. Okay. And that's why also we said in the beginning of this presentation, the combinations need to happen on the line of scrimmage, because if they don't, then you end up with these guys behind these movements, and they're a much higher likelihood of getting picked. All right, right here, left guard. All right. The DN goes inside. The tackle's going to turn back on it. They're on a slip. So the center's the last man in the two-man combination, he turns back, and then the guard is able to work his way through, mostly because the leverage of the linebacker is allowing him to do that. And I guarantee you after this play, this defense said, man, we better not do that too many more times, because these are some big gashing plays when the D-line moves and you're able to handle that kind of movement. I had a million more clips to show you guys. I know I'm already about 5 minutes over, but we can open it up to questions, things that you guys may want to ask as it pertains to outside zone. I do want to make this one last point, and I think this is a really important point to make, and that is most teams that run outside zone also run inside zone. The two demeanors, the two ways of moving for linemen in inside zone and outside zone are vastly different. And so I think it's important to, at some point when you do drill work, to drill both inside and outside zone in the same drill, so that the linemen have to get used to running when it's outside zone and playing with a great base and great demeanor when it's inside zone. Because in a drive, you're going to call inside zone, then outside zone, then inside zone. And those two ways of moving are very, very, very different for the O lineman. And you'll find that some of one tends to trickle into the other if you're not careful. So you'll find on inside zone, your guys start running through the combos and not playing with a great base. Or you'll find that on outside zone, your guys are not running and they've got their knees inside their ankles and playing with great demeanor like it was an inside zone play. But let's open it up to questions. And, I didn't get through near as much as I thought that I might, but anybody who wants to get in touch with me after this, I'll put my email address up on the PowerPoint, and you can get in touch with me and we can go over some more stuff if you'd like to continue talking about it.
All right, Coach, that was great. At the moment, there are no questions, but
right.
We, on behalf of Lawrence First and Goal, we would like to thank you for the presentation and for your time.
Yep, I'm going to put there's my email address right there, okay? Gabriel.fertitta@gmail.com. If you need to get in touch with me and you want to talk about any more of this stuff, feel free to email me, and I'll be glad to, when I have some time, get on there and talk you through some of this stuff. So really appreciate all you guys who sat in and talked and listened to me talk, but don't forget, if you're a high school coach, you want to come visit us. I put those dates up there at the beginning of the talk. Check those out and come by and see us in Tallahassee. We'd love to have you guys. And thanks to Lawrence First and Goal for having me. Like, what a great cause, talking ball and then raising money for pediatric cancer. It's awesome. So thank you all for having me as well.
Thank you, Coach.